Snow had begun to fall over Enchantia, soft and silent, blanketing the castle grounds in a glimmering coat of white. The fountains had frozen into glittering sculptures, and the air smelled of peppermint and pine. Inside the grand hall, the staff hurried to decorate for the winter season, garlands of silver ribbon, enchanted snowflakes that floated in midair, and glowing ice-blue lanterns. Sofia stood by the window, her breath fogging the glass as she admired the falling snow. "It's so pretty," she whispered, her amulet glinting like a tiny frost crystal. Amber entered, dressed elegantly in a fur-trimmed gown. "Pretty, yes, but freezing. I still don't understand why people find snow fun," she said dramatically. Sofia giggled. "That's because you've never gone ice dancing." Amber lifted a brow. "Ice dancing? Please tell me you're not planning to." Before she could finish, Bailiwick stepped into the hall, holding a rolled-up parchment with a gold seal. "Attention, everyone! A royal announcement from the king." The royal family and castle staff gathered around as Bailiwick cleared his throat and began to read aloud. "By royal decree, the Winter Festival shall include this year's most elegant event, the Royal Ice Dance Showcase. All young royals are invited to participate in pairs, demonstrating grace, teamwork, and royal spirit upon the ice." Sofia gasped, her eyes sparkling. "An ice dance showcase. That sounds amazing." Amber sighed, dramatically fanning herself. "And chilly." King Roland chuckled as he entered the hall, brushing a bit of snow from his shoulders. "It's a fine enchanting tradition. I used to skate when I was your age, Amber, though I wasn't nearly as graceful." Queen Miranda smiled warmly at her daughter. "You should enter, Sofia. You've always loved skating." Sofia nodded eagerly. "Oh, I'd love to. Maybe I can dance with Ruby or Jade." Before she could finish, Bailiwick unrolled the parchment again. "Pairs have already been arranged by the event committee. Your Majesties." He read down the list. "Princess Hildegard with Prince Desmond, Princess Cleo with Prince Xander, and Princess Sofia." Sofia's smile widened in anticipation. "With Prince Hugo." The room went silent for a beat. "Hugo," Sofia repeated, blinking. Amber covered her mouth to hide a grin. "Well, this should be interesting." Sofia tried to smile politely, though her heart sank a little. Prince Hugo, the same Hugo who once teased her during flying derby lessons, who always bragged about being the best, who seemed allergic to teamwork. King Roland noticed her hesitation. "Is something the matter, Sofia?" She quickly straightened. "Oh, and no, it's fine. I'm sure Hugo will be great." But inside, she wasn't so sure. Later that afternoon, Sofia headed to the Royal Ice Pavilion for the first practice session. The vast rink sparkled under enchanted lights, and snowflakes drifted lazily above the glass ceiling. Hugo was already there, arms crossed, skates gleaming, and an expression that screamed confidence. "About time," he said as Sofia approached. "I've already practiced my jumps. You just try to keep up." Sofia blinked. "We're supposed to dance together. Hugo, it's not a race." He shrugged. "Maybe not for you." Taking a deep breath, Sofia tied her skates and glided onto the ice. The cold air brushed her cheeks, and for a moment, she felt that familiar magic of freedom that came with skating. But when Hugo joined her, spinning too fast and nearly bumping into her, the spell broke. "Careful," Sofia exclaimed. "I had it under control," Hugo said, brushing it off. Sofia sighed. This was going to be harder than she thought. After an hour of uncoordinated spins, clashing moves, and awkward silences, Sofia finally stopped mid-rink. "Hugo, this isn't working. Ice dancing is about teamwork, not showing off." He turned, his pride flashing. "Maybe you should just try harder to keep up. Princess Perfect." Sofia frowned but held her tongue. She glided toward the edge of the rink, her reflection shimmering on the ice below. For the first time, skating didn't feel magical, it felt lonely. As she untied her skates, she looked back at Hugo practicing alone in the middle of the rink. He was fast, skillful, and maybe, just maybe, a little lost himself. Sofia whispered to herself, "There has to be a way to make this work." Little did she know, this frosty partnership was about to teach them both what true harmony meant. and it would take more than talent to melt the ice between them. The next morning, the Royal Ice Pavilion shimmered under the soft morning light. Frost traced delicate patterns on the windows, and the smooth rink gleamed like a sheet of crystal. Sofia entered quietly, clutching her skates, determined to give things another try. She found Hugo already there, skating in perfect circles, his reflection gliding effortlessly beneath him. He looked like he had stepped right out of a storybook, confident, graceful, and focused. But the moment he saw Sofia, his easy rhythm faltered. "Oh, you're early," he said, gliding to a stop. "Didn't think you'd show up so soon after yesterday." Sofia smiled politely. "Of course I showed up. We're partners, remember?" He smirked. "Right, partners." Sofia took a deep breath, fastening her skates. She wasn't going to let his attitude ruin her excitement. "Let's just start with something simple. Maybe a synchronized glide?" Hugo crossed his arms. "Sure, just try to keep up this time." Sofia ignored his tone and skated onto the ice. They took their positions, facing the same direction. The music began, a gentle waltz that filled the air with warmth despite the cold. For a moment, their movements matched beautifully. Their skates carved twin lines across the ice, and Sofia almost believed they could make this work. Then Hugo sped up suddenly, spinning too early and sending Sofia twirling off balance. She gasped, flailing her arms, before catching herself on the rail. "Hugo," she exclaimed, "you have to wait for the count." "I was improvising," he said with a shrug. "That's what makes me the best." Sofia frowned. "Being the best doesn't mean leaving your partner behind." He scoffed lightly. "You sound like my flying derby coach." Sofia crossed her arms. "Maybe your coach was right." For a few seconds, silence filled the rink. The music had stopped, leaving only the faint sound of skates against ice and the echo of their breaths. Finally, Hugo sighed and looked away. "Look, I just don't work well with partners. Every time I do, they slow me down." Sofia blinked. "Slow you down? Or make you better?" He frowned at that, unsure how to respond. Sofia softened her tone. "You're really talented, Hugo, but maybe if you let someone help, you could be even better. That's what teamwork is. It's about trusting someone else to share the spotlight." Hugo looked at her, his expression conflicted. "You really believe that?" "I do," she said firmly. "That's what being a princess and a dancer is all about." Hugo hesitated. Then, with a reluctant sigh, he nodded. "All right, let's try again." Sofia smiled, feeling a spark of hope. They skated back to their positions, and this time, she counted softly under her breath. 1, 2, 3, glide. They moved together again, slowly at first, then more confidently. Their skates sliced through the ice in perfect rhythm, and Hugo followed her lead to the first turn. For a brief, shining moment, it worked. "See," Sofia said breathlessly. "That was amazing." Hugo almost smiled. "Yeah, not bad." They practiced for another hour. There were still stumbles, a missed turn here, an uneven spin there, but something was changing. Hugo wasn't rushing ahead anymore, and Sofia wasn't afraid to take the lead. When their session ended, Hugo removed his gloves and glanced at Sofia. "You're not as bad as I thought," he muttered, trying to sound casual. Sofia giggled. "Thanks, I think." He grinned faintly. "Don't get used to compliments." But Sofia had seen it, that small spark of teamwork beginning to thaw the icy distance between them. As she left the rink that morning, she glanced back one last time. Hugo was still skating, repeating a spin over and over until he landed it perfectly. There was determination in his eyes, but this time, not just for himself. Maybe, just maybe they could pull this off. Outside, snowflakes drifted down like tiny stars, and Sofia whispered to herself with a hopeful smile, "Tomorrow will be better. Together." The following day, the castle was buzzing with excitement. Flyers for the Royal Ice Dance competition fluttered on every notice board, and princesses from across Enchantia were practicing their routines. Sofia, full of determination, hurried to the Royal Ice Pavilion for her next session with Prince Hugo. She arrived early again, her skates gleaming, her hair tied neatly with a ribbon that matched her lilac dress. The rink sparkled under the sunlight streaming through the crystal dome. It was the perfect day to make progress. When Hugo finally showed up, fashionably late as always, he gave her a confident grin. Ready to win, partner? Sofia smiled back. Ready to practice. He chuckled. Same thing. They began warming up, gliding side by side across the ice. The harmony they had discovered yesterday still lingered, each movement smoother, more natural. Their timing was improving, their spin sharper. For a moment, it almost felt effortless. But when Sofia suggested they try a new move, the Twilight Spiral, a combination lift and spin, Hugo hesitated. That's an advanced move, he said, frowning slightly. Even I haven't mastered it. Sofia tilted her head. Then we'll learn together. Hugo sighed but finally agreed. All right, princess. But don't say I didn't warn you. They took their positions. Sofia glided backward gracefully as Hugo built up momentum. Then he lifted her into the air, spinning her gently while skating in a wide circle. For a few seconds, everything went beautifully. Her skirt fanned like a snowflake, their movements synchronized like music and melody. Then it happened. Hugo's blade caught on a patch of uneven ice. His balance faltered. Sofia let out a gasp as the world tilted. And in an instant, they crashed down together, tumbling onto the frozen surface in a tangle of arms and laughter. Ow! Sofia groaned, rubbing her elbow. Are you okay? Hugo winced, sitting up. Yeah, I think my pride's the only thing that's bruised. They looked at each other, then burst out laughing. The sound echoed through the rink like bells. Okay, Sofia said between giggles. Maybe that move needs a little more practice. A lot more, Hugo agreed, smirking. Once the laughter faded, Sofia noticed something surprising. Hugo wasn't frustrated. Usually, he'd storm off after a mistake. But this time he stayed, patient, focused, and even smiling. Let's fix the timing, Sofia suggested. If we start the lift half a beat later, you'll have better balance. Hugo nodded. Good idea. You've got a sharp eye for this, Sofia. Thanks, she said warmly. You're not so bad yourself, Your Highness. They tried again, and again, and again. Each attempt was a little better. Still imperfect, but closer to the rhythm they both envisioned. Hours passed before they finally got it right. As Hugo lifted Sofia one last time, the move flowed perfectly, her spin elegant, his footing steady. When he set her down, they both froze in disbelief. We did it! Sofia cheered, twirling on the ice. Hugo grinned widely. Guess we're not such a bad team after all. Just then, a familiar voice echoed across the rink. Splendid work, Your Highnesses. It was Bailiwick, the royal steward, holding a clipboard. King Roland and Queen Miranda will be attending the competition tomorrow. I trust you'll make the royal family proud. Sofia's heart fluttered. Mom and Dad are coming. Indeed, Bailiwick said with a smile. They're quite looking forward to your performance. After he left, Hugo looked thoughtful. Pressure's on, huh? Sofia nodded but smiled bravely. We'll be ready. We just have to keep believing in each other. As they finished the day, the rink glowed with sunset light. Sofia and Hugo skated side by side one last time before leaving, their silhouettes graceful against the golden ice. Neither said out loud, but both felt it, a spark of true partnership warming the chill of the frozen rink. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but for now, they had learned something important. Even when you fall, it's how you rise together that makes all the difference. The next morning dawned crisp and silver, the castle roofs blanketed in a glimmering coat of snow. Sofia woke early, her excitement bubbling like hot cocoa. Today, she and Prince Hugo would be perfecting their final dance, the winter waltz, before the Royal Ice Dance Showcase. She laced up her skates and hurried to the rink, where the ice shimmered under the morning sun like glass dusted with diamonds. The air felt enchanted, filled with promise. When Hugo arrived, he carried 2 cups of steaming cocoa. Thought, we could use a little energy, he said casually, handing one to her. Sofia smiled. Thanks. You're learning. Teamwork isn't just about skating. Hugo chuckled. Guess I'm getting the hang of this partnership thing. They sipped their cocoa, watching the morning light dance across the ice. It was peaceful, almost magical, until Sofia noticed something unusual. Cedric the Sorcerer was standing near the benches, holding a scroll and looking rather suspicious. Cedric? Sofia called out. What are you doing here? Cedric jumped, almost dropping a scroll. Oh, well, I happened to be passing by, and I thought I might observe the royal competitors, purely for academic purposes. Hugo whispered, He's definitely up to something. Sofia giggled. Just let him watch. Maybe he'll bring us good luck. With Cedric reluctantly taking a seat, Sofia and Hugo began practicing the winter waltz, a graceful routine that combined glides, lifts, and synchronized spins. The melody echoed through the pavilion as the two skaters moved like a single rhythm. At first they stumbled. Hugo's footwork was too sharp, and Sofia's turns too wide. But as they repeated the sequence, something began to change. They started listening not just to the music, but to each other. Sofia adjusted her pace to match Hugo's rhythm. Hugo softened his movements to flow with hers. The ice beneath them seemed to sing as they glided in perfect harmony. Then, as they spun into the waltz's most intricate move, the silver swirl, Cedric muttered something under his breath. A faint purple sparkle drifted from his scroll toward the rink. Suddenly, the ice gleamed brighter, and their skates glided faster than before. Whoa! Hugo exclaimed, his balance wobbling. What's happening? Sofia gasped as they spun at lightning speed. Cedric, did you... Cedric waved his hands frantically. It was supposed to be a simple enchantment, a charm for smooth gliding, not turbo skating. The two whirled across the rink in dizzy circles, until Cedric shouted an incantation to reverse the spell. With a shimmer of gold dust, everything slowed to normal again, leaving Sofia and Hugo collapsing onto the ice, laughing breathlessly. Cedric, Sofia said between laughs. Next time, maybe skip the magic. The sorcerer huffed. Well, I was only trying to help. You two seem to be doing fine without me, anyway. He turned and left, muttering about ungrateful royals and misfired spells. Hugo grinned. Well, that was exciting. Sofia smiled. At least now we know we can handle surprises, even magical ones. After that chaotic moment, something shifted in them. They practiced with renewed confidence, letting their movements tell a story. Not just a dance, but friendship, patience, and trust. When they finished the routine one final time, Sofia's heart swelled with pride. The winter waltz wasn't perfect yet, but it felt right. Hugo glanced at her, his usual smirk softening. You know, Sofia, I used to think winning was everything. But skating with you, it's different. It actually feels fun. She smiled, touched by his honesty. That's what it's supposed to feel like. Hugo, we're a team. They left the rink as snowflakes drifted from the sky, soft and silent. The showcase was only a day away, and nerves were building, but so was their bond. And though neither said it aloud, both knew that the next time they stepped onto the ice, it wouldn't just be to perform. It would be to share something truly magical. The royal ice dancers were ready. Morning light streamed through Sofia's window, glinting off her silver tiara as she stirred awake. Today was the day of the Royal Ice Dance Showcase, the event everyone at Royal Prep had been waiting for. The courtyard below buzzed with excitement as carriages arrived from neighboring kingdoms. Princesses, princes, and dignitaries gathered, their laughter and chatter floating through the frosty air. Sofia's heart fluttered with nervous joy. She carefully brushed her hair, slipping on her lilac skating dress, its layers of chiffon catching the light like winter petals. Clover peeked out from under her dresser. You sure you're ready for this, Sofia? He asked, twitching his nose. Sofia smiled, her nerves melting a little. I think so, Clover. Hugo and I have worked really hard. It's time to show what we've learned. Down in the grand hall, Hugo was already pacing. His usual confidence seemed replaced with quiet focus. When Sofia arrived, he straightened and smiled slightly. You look ready. So, do you? She replied warmly. Just then, Bailiwick entered with a scroll. "Your Majesties, King Roland and Queen Miranda, are seated. The competition begins shortly." He gave them both an encouraging nod. "You two make quite the team. Show them what true grace looks like." As they headed toward the rink, Sofia felt a swirl of emotions, excitement, nerves, and something deeper. She and Hugo had come so far from their first awkward day together. They weren't just partners now. They were friends who trusted each other completely. The arena was breathtaking. Chandeliers of ice crystals hung from the domed ceiling, casting shimmering reflections across the frozen floor. The audience's anticipation filled the air like a song waiting to begin. They waited behind a curtain as the announcer introduced the royal competitors. Princess Hildegard and Prince Desmond went first, their performance elegant and polished. Then came Princess Amber with her partner Cleo, a twirling display of perfect posture and poise. Finally, it was Sofia and Hugo's turn. Sofia took a deep breath. "We've got this." Hugo nodded. Together, the music began, soft, slow, like snowflakes falling in rhythm. Sofia and Hugo stepped onto the ice, gliding gracefully to the center. The winter waltz unfolded like a story. Each movement was deliberate and full of feeling, their arms sweeping like waves, their spin synchronized like the heartbeat of one song. As Sofia twirled, her dress flared in soft ripples of lilac and silver. Hugo lifted her with effortless strength, their eyes meeting mid-spin. For a brief, perfect moment, it felt as if the world had slowed, as if the only things that existed were music, ice, and trust. Then came the most challenging part, the twilight spiral. It was the same move that had caused their fall before. Sofia's heart pounded, but Hugo gave a small, reassuring nod. She smiled. "We can do this." He lifted her, spinning as the music swelled. This time, their movements flowed perfectly, smooth, balanced, breathtaking. The crowd gasped, enchanted. The chandeliers sparkled brighter, as if the ice itself applauded. When the final note faded, Sofia and Hugo landed their last glide, holding their pose as the audience erupted into cheers. The sound echoed like magic across the rink. For a few seconds, neither of them moved, both just breathing, hearts racing, eyes bright with joy. Then Hugo laughed softly. "We actually did it." Sofia smiled, her cheeks glowing. "We did. Together." As they left the rink, they were greeted by applause from their friends. Amber clapping proudly, James giving Hugo a playful cheer, and Bailiwick wiping away what suspiciously looked like a proud tear. Even King Roland and Queen Miranda rose to their feet, smiling down at them. Cedric, standing off to the side, muttered with a smirk, "Well, I did help a little." Sofia laughed, waving to him. "Thanks, Cedric. Maybe your magic wasn't such a bad idea after all." Hugo turned to her with a rare, genuine grin. "You know, Sofia, for someone who used to think I didn't need a partner, I can't imagine skating without you now." Sofia beamed. "That's because the heart of the dance isn't the steps, Hugo. It's the friendship behind them." As the audience continued to cheer, the two young royals bowed gracefully, the ice beneath them glowing softly under the light. They didn't know yet if they'd win the crown for best performance, but it didn't matter, because in that moment, they'd already won something far more important. The joy of dancing with someone who truly believed in you. The Royal Ice Pavilion glimmered with excitement as the final applause echoed through the air. Sofia and Hugo stood hand in hand at the edge of the rink, their breaths still quick from a dance, their cheeks glowing with the rush of success. The cheers of the crowd swelled around them like music, warm, thunderous, and full of joy. King Roland rose from his seat, beaming with pride. Splendid performance, Sofia. Prince Hugo, magnificent teamwork. Queen Miranda added with a smile, "You two dance with such grace and heart. I couldn't be prouder." Sofia's heart fluttered. "Thank you, Mom, Dad." As they bowed, Hugo's eyes shone brighter than the ice beneath them. "They loved it," he whispered, grinning. Sofia nodded, feeling a wave of happiness, not just for the dance, but for how far they'd come. From bickering partners to trusted teammates, their journey had been more magical than any spell. Soon, Bailiwick stepped forward with a silver tray holding a crystal envelope. The judge's final decision. The entire hall fell silent as he handed it to the announcer. Ladies and gentlemen, princes and princesses, the announcer declared, the moment you've all been waiting for, the winner of this year's Royal Ice Dance Showcase. A hush swept through the crowd. Sofia could feel her heart thumping in her chest, her hand still clasped in Hugo's. The crown of ice, the announcer continued, goes to... He paused dramatically. Princess Sofia and Prince Hugo. The room erupted in cheers. Trumpets sounded, ribbons of silver and blue rained down from above, and sparkles of magic swirled in the air. Sofia gasped, her eyes wide. Hugo blinked, then laughed in disbelief. We won, he said, turning to her. Sofia giggled. We really did. Bailiwick approached with a velvet cushion carrying 2 gleaming crowns, delicate circlets made of crystal and silver snowflakes. As he placed them gently upon their heads, the crowd stood to applaud once more. You've earned the title of Royal Ice Dancers, he said proudly. Your performance was not only technically perfect, but full of heart, and that's what truly moves an audience. Sofia smiled warmly. Thank you, Bailiwick. We couldn't have done it without everyone's support. Speak for yourself, Hugo teased lightly. I think I was the one doing all the heavy lifting. Sofia giggled. You mean the graceful lifting? Cedric, watching from the side, crossed his arms with a huff. Oh, please. If not for my perfectly timed enchantment, you'd still be slipping around like penguins. Sofia laughed, walking over to him. Maybe so, but you still made an adventure, Cedric. Thank you. He blinked, startled. Oh, well, I suppose you're welcome. Then he added quickly, just don't tell anyone I helped. I have a reputation to maintain. As the ceremony continued, King Roland and Queen Miranda joined the skaters on the ice, their smiles warm with pride. Amber and James rushed up to hug their sister, Amber's eyes twinkling. You were wonderful, Sofia. I've never seen such perfect spins. Thanks, Amber, Sofia said, hugging her back. But I think Hugo deserves just as much credit. Amber turned to Hugo, slightly impressed. I suppose you've improved. Hugo smirked. Guess I had a great teacher. The musicians struck up a final melody, a royal waltz, and soon everyone joined in for a celebratory dance on the rink. The atmosphere was pure joy. Laughter, music, and glimmering light filled the space as the royals twirled and glided together. Sofia spun gracefully, her lilac dress swirling like mist. Hugo skated beside her, matching her movements effortlessly. At one point, as the crowd danced around them, Sofia and Hugo shared a quiet moment in the center of the rink. This was more than just a competition, Hugo said softly. Sofia nodded. It was about trust, about friendship, and maybe, Hugo added with a small smile, a little bit of magic too. They both laughed, their crowns sparkling under the golden light. As the music swelled, they skated one final circle. 2 young royals who had discovered that teamwork, patience, and kindness could turn even a frozen stage into something warm and full of heart. And when the night finally ended, Sofia looked around at her friends, her family, in the glittering rink, and thought to herself that this, truly, was what being royal meant. Sharing your light so others could shine too. The night sky shimmered like velvet embroidered with diamonds as the castle celebration for the royal ice dancers continued. Music filled the air. Laughter echoed through the halls, and soft lanterns floated above the courtyard, casting a warm golden glow on the snow. Inside, the ballroom gleamed with ribbons of silver and blue, the colors of winter victory. Sofia sat beside Queen Miranda, her new crystal crown gleaming under the chandeliers. The excitement of the day still sparkled in her eyes. I still can't believe it, she said softly, gazing out the window toward the frozen rink below. We really won. Queen Miranda smiled, brushing a hand over her daughter's hair. You didn't just win, Sofia. You inspired everyone. You showed what it means to believe in your heart and work together. Sofia's heart warmed. Her mother's words always found their way straight to her soul. Thank you, Mom. I couldn't have done it without Hugo. As if on cue, Hugo appeared at the doorway, his crown slightly crooked, his tie loosened, and his grin wider than ever. Hey, partner, he said with playful bow. You're not celebrating without me, are you? Sofia giggled. Wouldn't dream of it. King Roland clapped his hands. drawing everyone's attention. May I have everyone's attention, please? Tonight, we honor two young royals who reminded us that true greatness isn't about trophies. It's about courage, kindness, and teamwork. He turned to Sofia and Hugo. You've both shown what it means to lead with heart. The room erupted into applause once more. Hugo rubbed the back of his neck, looking bashful. Guess that's us, he murmured. Amber leaned toward Sofia and whispered with a teasing smile. Looks like you made quite the impression, little sister. Sofia laughed softly. Maybe a little. Then the royal musicians began to play a soft melody, gentle, twinkling notes that seemed to float through the ballroom like snowflakes. It was a winter waltz, the very song Sofia and Hugo had performed earlier that day. Shall we? Hugo asked, extending his hand. Sofia curtsied with a grin. Of course. The two stepped onto marble floor, their skates replaced by polished shoes, but their rhythm, their connection, remained. They began to dance, gliding with the same harmony they had found on the ice. The music swelled around them, and soon others joined, Amber and James, then King Roland and Queen Miranda, and even Cedric, who reluctantly shuffled to the rhythm while muttering about improper ballroom technique. The laughter, the light, and the soft swirl of gowns created a magical moment that felt like a living dream. As the song ended, Hugo and Sofia bowed together, smiling. That was almost as good as skating, Hugo said. Almost, Sofia agreed with a laugh. But no falling this time. He chuckled. Progress. Later that evening, as the guests began to leave and the stars glittered brighter overhead, Sofia slipped away to the balcony. The crisp night air kissed her cheeks as she looked over the courtyard, where snowflakes danced in the moonlight. Hugo joined her, carrying 2 cups of warm cocoa. Thought you might want a toast, he said, handing her one. Sofia smiled, wrapping her hands around the cup. To what? To teamwork, Hugo said with a smirk. Sofia raised her cup. To friendship. They clinked their mugs, laughing softly as their breath misted in the cold air. For a moment, everything felt still. The castle glowing softly behind them, the ice rink glistening like glass, and the stars twinkling like a silent applause from above. You know, Hugo said after a pause, I used to think dancing was just about showing off, but skating with you it felt like flying. Sofia smiled. That's because we learned to fly together. Hugo nodded thoughtfully. Guess being royal isn't just about being the best. It's about being your best self. Sofia looked at him, her eyes full of warmth. Exactly. They stood there for a while, watching the snow drift down in gentle spirals. Below, the rink still shimmered with faint traces of their earlier performance. 2 sets of skate marks intertwined, frozen forever in the moonlight. Sofia took a deep breath, her heart full. This really was a dance to remember. Hugo smiled, and the start of many more. The castle bells chimed midnight, marking the end of the day. But for Sofia and Hugo, it wasn't an ending at all, just the beginning of a new chapter in their royal friendship, one that would shine as brightly as the stars above in Chancia. And as the snow continued to fall softly over the castle, the world seemed to whisper back the perfect truth. When hearts dance together, they create magic that never fades.